We'll wait till we get Willard to sit down. Perfect. Now we can go. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order, please, and we'll ask everybody to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'll get there.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everybody, and welcome to the November 12th Board of Commissioners meeting. Roll call, please.
Rhodes,
Here.
Bowman,
Yes.
Odd, Sykes, Obermeyer.
Here, open meetings law is posted on the south side of our chambers. It is also in the hallway outside of our chambers and on our website. Proof of publication was in the paper November 7th, on the website November 8th, and there's always a notice posted outside of our chambers. Review and approve the minutes of the October 29th Board of Commissioner meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Odd, Sykes,
Yes.
Obermeyer.
Yes. Okay, adopt today's agenda.
Move to adopt.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bowman,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Obermeyer.
Yes. Okay, we will have officials forum. First, I would like to say that, I don't know if anybody noticed, we did do a little bit of green light out front for the remembering the veterans yesterday, and they were up all last week. And as I looked in the paper today, I see the slum feed took place yesterday, and a lot of faces and backs of heads that I could recognize, and I would like to recognize with us today, Jack, I believe.
Yes.
Veteran. Is there any other veterans that are with us today? The Jacksons, thank you for your service. And hopefully you had your slum feed yesterday. Doesn't seem like much payment, but looked like everybody's in a good mood. But thank you for the veterans that do serve us. Officials forum. Do we have anybody that wants to come forward today? Greg, do you want to? No, you don't. You want these guys to talk about it?
Sure.
Okay.
No, you're fine.
Go ahead, Nate. Go ahead.
Yeah.
One quick thing. Nate Hines, Deputy County Attorney and Zoning Administrator for the county. Just for the board's awareness and for any public, notices went out last week, but next Monday night at 6:30 p.m. is a zoning board meeting in this commissioner's room here. They'll be covering three main things. One will be the update on the comprehensive plan. A person from Marvin Planning and Consulting will be there to update basically what's been done, steps moving forward. They'll also be discussing the solar regulations that this board sent back to them a few months ago. So I have that as discuss and act in case they take any action, but they'll be discussing that. And then third, there's a conditional use permit for a bird farm for Mr. Justin Chrisman. But again, that's next Monday night here at 6:30 p.m. Just wanted to let everybody know.
Okay, thanks, Nate.
Thanks.
Nate, could you pull that, it got offset, could you pull that to the center? Thank you. Any other officials? Gary, got anything?
Nope, not today.
Okay, did you guys have anything to report?
Nothing.
Nothing major?
Yeah,
Good.
both the things that we can discuss are on the agenda. So
Okay, all right.
Help them then.
Seeing no other officials in the room, we will go on to public comment. At this time, anybody from the public is more than welcome to step forward and comment if they would like. Oop. Morning, Jim.
Jim Jackson, 907 Road 2, Fairmont. I live close to Middle Junction. One of the things I want to talk about this morning is how government solves problems by throwing money at it. I'm an anomaly. I've joined the Marine Corps in June 1963 and took a test to see if I qualified to be a heavy junk mechanic, 1341 in the Marine Corps. Okay, my first airplane ride was from Lincoln to Omaha on a DC-8. Then we went to Chicago, and anyway, ended up in Savannah and then Parris Island, South Carolina. So I'm a swamp rat instead of a Hollywood Marine. The next thing I did was boot camp. I went about the middle of October. was there when President Kennedy was assassinated, so that kind of highlighted that point in time. The 7th of January, moved up to Camp Lejeune. It's over 100,000 acres. Close to Jacksonville by Wilmington. Wilmington wasn't famous yet because Michael Jordan hadn't been born yet, and that's where he was born. I was there at Camp Geiger for 2 months in infantry training, more infantry training. You're a rifleman if you're in the Marine Corps, no matter what you do. Anyway, then I went to my mechanic school. So I was at Lejeune over 6 months. Well, you've all heard, you've seen the commercial. I forgot to tell Jack here that the Navy is part of the Marine Corps. So anyway, you've seen all the commercials about you have to file for get money for if you had these diseases from being at Camp Lejeune, because they had a central water system, and every division of the base had a water tower, and they got their water from the same place. And it was contaminated with the same things like York has here in downtown, from the dry cleaner and some of the things the fire retarder, and then some of the things that we washed our parts with. Well, I don't have any of those problems that they paid for, or they list, and that you can get money from them. But anyway, the government sent a ton of money into that project, and the water was contaminated from 1957 or 3 to 83. So, yeah, 57 to 83. Okay, they threw all this money in it, but they didn't put any parameters on how much the lawyers could take. And finally, the Legion came up with a deal that they had somebody that only take 20%. But anyway, that's how they throw the money. And just like the green energy, I've read articles that say we spend $1 million for every acre of green energy we get. And I just don't quite, no wonder we have inflation. We got all these grants, we got all these money we throw at all the problems, and there's no parameters. And I just feel that I wanted to relay this to you, that money doesn't solve everything. We need to figure out what we're doing a little at a time instead of going all out. Thank you for your time, and God bless.
Thanks, Jim.
Jim, they call us the seagoing bellhops for the Marines.
I knew you'd get back at me.
Anybody else from the public at this point in time? Morning, Willard.
Hey, Willard Peterson, 514 Road 13, my address is York. I am from Bradshaw, thank you very much. This has been weighing on my mind for a long time, goes back a lot of meetings and actually quite a few years. And that has to do with how you guys control a whole lot of purse strings, even from things that it sort of seems like you shouldn't need to. And even sometimes you say, we wish we didn't have to mess with this, but usually the legislature's told you to do it, so then you do it. But what I'm referring to is, in my opinion, a waste of a lot of your employees' times, because you send them off to do, or they come up with ideas of things that would maybe make their department's work easier or better, or certain things that come up that you're supposed to do. But you guys' habit seems to be is that you tell them to go do something, and then they do it, and they come back with things, and then you tell them to go do it again to see if they can't find a better price or a better whatever, and then they come back, and then you tell them to go do it again, And I'll just bring up a wheelchair that not everybody knows about, but that went on for about 2 months, trying to find a better price on a wheelchair. And I think the people you hire for those departments, they have better things to do. If you guys have specific, written out things that you want, go do it. Go find it, because you're the ones that get a say whether you're spending the money or not. And it just seems to me like you're wasting a lot of your employees' time, because, like I said, in the end result, you do have the power. And I don't have a problem with that, but if you got the power, then do it in the first place. Because I was told one time that the only way you can get something exactly right is to do it yourself. So that's been weighing on my mind for a long time.
Next, Willard. Morning, Jim.
Yes, morning. Jim Clutie, 1202 Road I. Two things. The only one I can hear and ever hear in here is Willard. Get the sound system fixed. Okay? Secondly, you guys have to get onto the railroad. There's only 2 railroad crossings across York County that's passable, and they're in the town of York. The railroad's actually putting up signs now that says ref railroad crossings. And it doesn't do any good for Harvey to send them an email because they just throw it away. So you guys, as the board, is gonna have to get that railroad cornered and threaten them, because that's the only way you get it done. And I don't know what you're gonna do. When you and I were on the board, we set the railroad down and said, okay, how would you like to tarp all those railroad cars? Because the first 10 rows of corn got railroad dust on them, it don't yield as much. We got the railroad crossings fixed. Now, there isn't one, the Stewart Road, you gotta stop to go across that one. Same way out here by the co-op. So, I don't know who you're gonna get or what you're gonna do, but Harvey said, well, I sent him an email. Well, that's, you just won't forget that. So, you guys get on them and figure out what to do. Okay?
Thanks, Jim.
Yep.
Anybody else from the public? Morning, Diane.
Good morning, Diana Johnson Henderson. So the prayers of a nation were answered last week when we saw President Trump elected as our 47th president. Trump not only won the popular vote but also the electoral college. We also now have a trifecta where all 3 branches are controlled by Republicans. So we have a lot of good things to look forward to in the next 4 years. Tonight, we are celebrating the York County veterans at our monthly meeting, and I'd like to extend an invitation to each of you to come celebrate with us. The meal is from 5:30 to 6:45. The program begins at 6:45 with Anthony Neidhart as our guest speaker. He was raised on a small farm near Albion and served in the United States Air Force. Then on Thursday, I was notified of this meeting last night. Then on Thursday, November 14 at 9 a.m., the NRD will be considering renewing Synergen's well permit. Synergen is a foreign company, for one, and number 2, they will waste our precious water. The community needs to show up at that meeting, and it's at the NRD meeting north of the county fairgrounds. Then next Tuesday, there's a meeting being planned regarding the CO2 pipeline that is currently going on in York County and across Nebraska to Wyoming. It is important that we all understand the issues of the CO2 pipeline. The meeting will be at the Cornerstone Event Center on the fairgrounds and will begin at 7, and I'd appreciate it if you would consider attending that. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Anybody else from the public this morning? Okay, we'll start going down the agenda. There is no reason for an executive session that I'm aware of right now or general assistance cases. Before we take up payroll and vendor claims, I'd like to do a funding transfer because one of the funds will be, if we don't transfer the state institution, so it's technicality. So first off, we'll do on our cheat sheets that we should have all had, transfer 12. It transfers $25,435 from the general fund to the state institution fund, which is the 1700 fund. And we will entertain a motion to do that first.
Motion to make said transfer?
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any questions or discussion regarding that? Roll call, please.
Groats.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Overmeyer.
Yes. Okay, that being done, then now we will review and approve vendor claims. We do have one change to,
One right there.
is it all together?
Yeah, it's all together.
So we had one invoice that would have been in 2355 that needed to be in 2360, and that was an invoice for $13,562.54. Same price, just needs to be moved to 2360 instead of 2355. Anything else we see?
Move to approve both vendor claims and payroll.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bowman.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Groats.
Yes.
Overmeyer.
Yes. Okay, next item up is discuss an act on drawdown. There will not be a drawdown number 2. That money did not come in from the state. In case it did, is why we put it on there. I think Mary said she got an email from them, said they will be within the next 2 weeks. The drawdown number 2 is for the Four Corners. Drawdown number 1 is actually one that kind of got mixed up in the paperwork, and it was one that we had signed off on in July. Between me and Kelly, we pushed it to the owner-occupied rehab, and it was actually for Four Corners. It was for services that had been rendered from Send, and so they've been patiently waiting since the end of July for, I guess, their money. So that will be for $6,734.25.
And that
That is the drawdown number 1.
and it didn't ever get sent out
It did
because
not.
it didn't have anywhere to go.
It's been here for a while.
Motion to approve drawdown number 1.
Second.
Thank you, thank you. Any other discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Groats.
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Overmeyer.
Yes. Okay, we're a little ahead of we will have a public hearing at 9 for the liquor change. So we'll jump down to discuss an act on installing all-way stop at 3 legs of the intersection Road M and 11. That is something we talked about at the last one. Greg, I believe you're here. Do you have anything to elaborate on that any further? Okay?
No.
Guys, did you guys have any more on it?
No, we covered it pretty thoroughly. I think the last meeting, that corner will have 3 stop signs. The stop signs and the placards are all in, ready to be installed, so.
And this is by resolution.
So they're just waiting for us to approve the resolution to get those put in.
Do we know of any others that are across the county that are like next on the list, or was this just?
This was a one-off. I think it's something where we could sit down and start to take a look at what other intersections we need to start looking at.
Because I know we've had that one east of town that's had the complaint about it too, and we kind of know the process now, and have the firm,
Yep.
and then we can put a dollar sign to it too, that says it takes so much.
Right. Correct.
of everything to get that done.
I don't know, I mean, this is cart ahead of the horse maybe, but I think that if that is a direction we want to go, one thing that he mentioned, was maybe looking at types of intersections, and then we could, wouldn't have to be.
Lump some together.
Right, exactly, correct.
Now, I think I asked at the last meeting, the neighborhood knows, the neighborhood had been talked to out there, so, because sometimes that's kind of a surprise,
Sure,
and all of a
yep.
sudden that they
Yeah,
have that.
I
out there.
personally have heard from 3 of the 4 houses
That are right there.
adjacent to that intersection, and all of them are for this.
For it. Good deal.
Yeah.
Good deal. Okay, anybody else have anything? So it is by resolution.
I move to approve the resolution to add the stop signs on the intersection of Road M and 11.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bowman,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Obermeyer.
Yes. Okay, discuss and act on Hall Road agreement between York County and Precision Pipeline.
There wasn't a map included in what we got, but that is the map of so the black lines are the approved recommended routes for them to use.
They're not limited to the black lines, but that is the highly recommended by Harvey. The red blocks on there do represent bridges that are no travel bridges for their trucks.
And that was included in the agreement that went to Precision Pipeline.
Okay. Any questions, guys? This agreement was signed off by them.
And I believe, Gary,
Yes.
you reviewed
Yep,
this and
I
everything,
did.
correct?
Right.
Thanks.
And that was not attached to this.
It wasn't
Does it
included.
need to be attached to it, I'm guessing? So we
I
have a
think it
copy
probably,
of that?
a copy of that would be good to be included with it, I think
Right.
would be good.
With details.
That copy there can stay with, we can just
Right.
include it with the,
I can just make a copy of it
Yep.
and attach it to that.
perfect.
Okay, any other questions? Time with that. Entertain a motion.
Right. It's important to have in place, they're gonna be moving their way through the county, so I think it's probably good to have something in place, so I'll
Mhm.
make a motion that we approve the Hall Road agreement.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Any other discussion?
The one, yeah, I
Go
got
ahead.
one thing. I am for approving this, however, we do need to make mention of this to the sheriff's department. I would like to see them patrol a little harder some of these sites where these trucks are gonna be going to help ensure public safety issues, especially around McCool where they're staging all the equipment and pipe. So I will talk with one of those folks about this as well moving forward, but that's all I got.
Okay. And they did sign it November 4th. We have a second.
Yes, Sykes did.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Obermeyer.
Yes. Okay, on to the next. Discuss an act on 2023, as you remember last time we had 2022, the 2023 distress warrants did not make it in at that point in time, so we do need to discuss an act on the 2023 distress warrants, delinquent personal property tax, including mobile homes. So essentially the same thing, we just, Megan had thought she had turned in the notice, but didn't turn in 23s, so. a chance to review those?
Motion to accept 2023 distress warrants and delinquent property tax, including mobile homes.
Thank you, Daniel.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Obermeyer.
Yes. Okay. Discuss an act on amend and restated agreements for formation of Region 5 Community Human Service Program and Region 5 Systems, now known as APACE. Gary, did you have those in front of you at some time? Do you
Yes.
remember?
Yep.
And you were good with the
I looked them
amendment?
over again last week, I believe it was.
Okay.
And I sent a message back to the initiating body saying that we're fine with those changes.
Okay.
Mainly just dealing with the name change, or was there, do you know if there was any other changes?
There were some other changes in the
Okay.
body.
Just some
Yep.
legalese,
I would say
assume?
formalities.
Okay, thanks.
Easy stuff.
Move to approve the amended and restated agreements for Region 5 and APACE.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bowman,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Obermeyer.
Yes. Okay, we're a couple minutes away from the hearing, but most everything left on here is gonna take more time than that, so we'll just wait. I don't know if we wanna touch on a committee report. Does anybody wanna touch on that quickly? Like I say, we got 9 o'clock, right around the corner. Jack, did you have anything the last?
We did have a Veteran Service Committee meeting, last week.
Okay,
Met out at the Wendy's. We didn't have a quorum, so couldn't really vote on too much, but, the meeting went well.
good. And it sounds like you got a meeting tomorrow too. Four Corners.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, oh, aging,
Services.
sorry. Used to be on Four Corners.
Used to.
Go ahead, Andy.
I didn't have anything.
Okay, Daniel.
YCDC Executive Board met last week. Good discussion. Some discussion on housing projects and some of the projects out by the interstate. Started to dive into budget regarding their budget and the 2025 stakeholder drive. And then last Tuesday, hung around here during election night.
I appreciate that, thank you.
I didn't do much, but cheer them on.
Moral
You
support.
were great moral support, you and Bowman, thank you. That was nice.
Okay, well, the election went off, it sounds like, with very little problems, or here at least, and, you know, it's the Boy Scouts, once again, we want to thank them for what they did and helped out tearing down and moving everything back this way. So that did take place last Tuesday. Last week, we had an insurance and quarterly department head meeting. We'll talk more about the insurance a little bit later. That went, I think, pretty well. We're seeing some little bit of troubled waters with our insurance, and as we'll get into, but the department head meetings have been, since we instituted them about a year ago, has been a nice, you know, get in there and talk about different things and promote the commercials that we've got heading out now and stuff like that. So those have been kind of valuable, I believe. Going forward, insurance is going to capture most of our attention, and then of course as we get into the zoning again, that should be a little bit interesting before the Christmas time shows up on us, so. And now it is 9 o'clock, and there is a liquor license that is for the BPHS Premium S Corp, are the new owners of the Henderson Fuel Mart, not known as Henderson BP. So with that name change and Liquor Commission, it is an opportunity to have a public hearing prior to hearing positive and/or negative comments towards that, and then we will take up that after the public hearing. So the public hearing is now open, and anybody can step forward and comment on that if they would like to. And we'll leave it open for a minute or so to see if anybody steps forward. Seeing nobody in the room get up, we will close the public hearing, and we will go on to discuss and act on a liquor license for BPHS Prem S Corp., the new owners of the Henderson Fuel Mart. Gentlemen. We have dealt with this one in the past mainly for manager changes.
Sure, right. Yep.
Not necessarily for ownership changes. When the manager changes, then we have to do that too.
I assume they've been operating under their new owner window.
I would assume. And they have had liquor out there for a few years now.
Probably 15.
I'm not kidding. And of course, we turn our recommendation over to the Liquor Commission. I would move for approval of the liquor license for BPHS Prem S Corp.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Obermeyer,
Yes.
Rhodes,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Cypress.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We will get that information on to the Liquor Commission. So then that takes us down to discuss and act on county vehicle, and Kurt just got sat down. Morning.
Good morning. Kurt Boldrin, York County Assessor. 2 weeks ago, you guys had asked me to look into different kind of vehicle, specifically a half-ton truck with a limit of 40,000. I sent some emails out to some dealerships. I got one response. I did send out again to the two that didn't respond. I emailed them again, no response back from them. It was really hard finding a half-ton truck within that budget type restraint. Also, when I got to thinking about it, I visited with maintenance. I can't think of any reason why the assessor's office needs a truck for the purposes of what it does. We don't carry that big of equipment around. I talked with the maintenance department. They didn't feel like they really needed a truck either. If they did, they probably would just call the highway department, see if they could borrow a vehicle from them. So I guess part of what I'm asking is that maybe you guys reconsider the thought of a truck driving around the countryside doing inspections. I think we'd be using a lot more fuel with the truck than, I guess, is it compared to a smaller or mid-sized SUV. I had heard back from Husker Auto Group, who I had talked to initially about the vehicle. They do have a GMC, I think it's a Terrain, still available there yet. I just got off the phone with him about 10 minutes ago. It's still available. Their price there is $31,297. So
Would that be considered under a state bid?
it's not really state bid. They ran out of those, but this, I think if you look here, their total on that is 34,000. I think they gave us a fleet rate of 31,000 for it. So they took $3,000 off of that one. So,
But it isn't part of the state package.
I don't think
Were
that
we-
was on the state bid. They were all out of 2024s for the state bid. So
Okay.
this was like the next best option they had available to them.
Okay.
So,
So, getting around the bidding problem, then, not that it's a problem, then without it qualifying for that state bid, then we would really need to have more than one.
okay. I can
You know,
call them
that
and
would be the
verify that.
problem with that, is if it was under the state bid that relieves us from that three
Okay.
comparables.
Okay.
We just don't want to get hung up on that part of this purchasing act. Can you verify that?
I can go back and verify if you like me to.
Yeah, please. That way we have that answer, because if not, then, you know, we're getting into some gray area that I'd just soon not go down. We don't have a problem with this, I just want to clarify that.
And it's because of the specific fund you'd be purchasing it from?
No,
It's
it's
just
just
the
the
overall
purchasing, that's the
purchasing act?
purchasing
Okay.
act, right.
I'll
So
s-
anything under 50,000 would need three qualified bids.
Okay.
But if it qualifies under the state bid, then when we can forego that part of it.
Okay. Anything else?
No,
Okay.
not that I have. Guys, do you have anything else? Thanks, Kurt.
Yep.
Steve is with us, so we can get back to Kurt. And Steve Severson is with Davis Design, and is here to discuss a little bit about the jail and sprinkler system. If you don't remember Steve, he was with Bergen Architects, years ago when we did our construction project. Now it's Davis Design, so go ahead, Steve.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As you know, in March, we began on a project for making a small expansion to the south of the courthouse. And that process included doing a code analysis of the state's life safety code, which is the 2012 version of the NFPA 101. So that code gives some discretion to the authority having jurisdiction on how that's applied to existing buildings. For York, that authority having jurisdiction is the state fire marshal's office. So we did request a review from the on-site deputy, and we had proposed 2-hour rated separation, similar to what was done with the dispatch edition. While he acknowledged that was acceptable for that project, he let us know that same leniency would not apply going forward. And so any more additions would be held to the higher standard of a new detention occupancy. So that occupancy, unlike most others, it allows restricting movement that would otherwise be required for egress. With that being a jail on the south side, the inmates are obviously not free to leave, so they're considered more vulnerable, and therefore the current standards do not allow for an unsprinkled facility. So with that, that has pushed us to where we are now with the new proposed letter of agreement. Obviously, this project is much different than where we started, so we're proposing a design for putting a modern fire suppression in the jail facility. We've been working with Ferris Engineering for that. What we've proposed is an hourly agreement with an upper limit of $49,500. We're uncertain if we'll need that full amount. Up until now, we've been relying on the contract documents that were drawn up in 1977. Obviously, things have changed since then. We just don't know exactly how much. This is also a little bit more complicated than most fire suppression projects. We obviously need tamper-resistant equipment there just due to elevated risk of suicide and vandalism in a jail facility. We're anticipating about 4 months of design time, but beyond that, it's difficult to predict how long we'll need just because we haven't spoke with corrections yet. We don't know exactly what the phasing is going to be like on that. So are there any questions on this?
So the kind of the short is that the fire marshal is not gonna allow us to do any more additions until we get up to snuff. And I'd reached out to Jordan in the corrections to reach out to jail standards to see if this is gonna open up a can of worms in that respect. And he has reached out to them 3 times over the last few weeks, and they have yet to get back to him. So what I would say is that we don't make any decision on this until we really know where jail standards comes in. We would like to think that us doing that is a positive and they wouldn't look at it, but sometimes when you start doing construction and they say, wait a minute, now you gotta do this, this, and this, and it would really be nice to know it. But I think it's obviously a good idea to get this up to code, and then we could proceed on with what we originally started with. But yeah, it's without that, jail standards, knowing for sure, I wouldn't be comfortable. And me and Steve talked about that yesterday too, just a little bit, so he was aware of that as he came in today. So, but does anybody have any questions regarding the cost, and there was a kind of a $10 to $12 per square foot? I mean, that was thrown around. It's not a hard number.
So separate from the design cost, we gave and I have to emphasize the roughness of this number, but a very rough construction cost estimate, which we're thinking between $10 to $12 per square foot. The jail facility is roughly 10,500 square foot, so that puts it between $105,000 and $126,000 for construction cost on the rough estimate.
And of course, getting into an old facility, and then we start talking about the ceiling, and, I mean, it's, who knows, but we would be able to nail that down just a little bit more the further we got into it.
My assumption, how the project would phase out could make that project cost go up as well, correct?
And we're anticipating to some degree there's going to need to be phasing on that, but yes, the more it's broken up, the more you can expect the cost to be.
And just the fact that we're working within a jail facility, I mean, there's gonna be qualifications of getting in, and you just don't let everybody walk around inside there, so.
We're anticipating everyone to get a background check. Usually checking in and checking out tools is important in a correctional facility, so this will be a lot more involved than most fire suppression projects.
Yeah. But that was the presentation for now. Like I say, unless we have anything else, we'll continue to ask jail standards to get some information, at least, and maybe we can, I don't know if the fire marshal can help with that or not, but, we can give the recommendation of what he has and see that, so we won't act on this. This is just, get it out there in front of us so we know some of these numbers. And Steve's been good to work with in the past, so that sounds good to me. Any other questions for Steve?
Very good.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Are you traveling through, or
Nope, I'll head back to.
not heading to Hall County today?
No,
Okay.
not today.
All right.
I'll do that next Tuesday.
All right, thank you, sir. Kurt?
Yes, sir. All right. So it is part of the state bid. It wasn't a vehicle that was from the factory. Typically how that works is on the state bid, you order the vehicle and it comes in from the factory. Since they ran out of that stock, they're allowed to use cars that they have on their lot for that to replace those state bid vehicles. So that's where that pricing then comes into play there.
Okay, so the overall price is?
It'd be on the back sheet.
The very back sheet?
Yep. $31,297.
And it is available now?
It is available now.
Ready for pickup whenever?
It'd be probably end of this week at the earliest, maybe next week, probably.
Okay. And so the only additional cost that I would see is getting it striped.
Just like the other one.
Like the other one.
Yeah. And I assume that wouldn't take too long, as if they have that template already, it
Right.
probably shouldn't take too long to do that.
Right.
So,
And it comes with warranty
mhm,
and all the above.
all that stuff.
It's a little bit different than what we talked about, obviously, guys. I know I talked to Kurt after the last and the 40,000 for the pickup. I thought if we could get a pickup for 40,000, that'd be a great thing, but I didn't know if we could or not. He brings up a valid point that we do have some other trucks available. Obviously, he's had conversations with Brian, and so this is front of us. It is state, so we can act on it now if we want to. I would recommend that if we do this, that we use ARPA money for the purchase of it. Conversation. Questions for Kurt?
Kurt, you said that the assessor's office really didn't think that they had the need for the utility of a pickup.
Mhm.
But we've talked over and over about this being available to other departments in the county. Does that make any difference? It doesn't to you, but it might to the others.
Doesn't to me, I just was thinking about like the different offices, the courts probably wouldn't utilize it. The
Yeah.
clerk, maybe like on election day, when the election commissioner would need to
Right,
go
but I
out
could
to.
always go to the roads department and get a truck. We have many out there.
Right, and at the same time, I don't think she probably wouldn't be hauling the election equipment in an open end of a truck. You probably want to have that in an SUV or something like that, just to keep it clean and everything, and safe. And I like talked with the maintenance department, he didn't see, for the few times a year, they would maybe need a truck. I think he'd just work with the roads department on something like that. The roads department in the past, I feel like, has always been pretty good to work with.
And sometime a while back, we talked at some length about buying a pickup for the weeds department, the weed superintendent. And I don't know where that ended up. But we did talk about the weed superintendent needing utility of a pickup for spraying equipment and whatever. Obviously, he wouldn't be using it all that much anyway, but just a question.
Sure, yeah, he would probably have a greater need for going more off-road than what we would. Typically, we'd just stay on driveways when we do want to go onto a parcel. If there's an improvement there, I'm guessing 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be easy to get there because they had to build it sometime. So, it's probably gonna be pretty accessible. So, you get out west, some of those counties out there, you probably need something a little more four-wheel drive utility, four-wheel drive and utility, so. All-wheel drive, this one does have all-wheel drive, which is a nice option, so. That's always worth looking into everything and turning over every stone when you're talking about these things, so.
Well, we want to keep Willard happy about turning stones.
You do what you need to do.
I would make the motion, we move forward with the purchase of the vehicle that he has presented.
Thank you, Jack. And second it.
I guess my only question is this gonna reside in your office like Veteran Services does in theirs?
I really don't have a preference. If you'd rather have it be through the clerk's office, I'm fine with that too. If the clerk doesn't want to keep track of that, I mean, we can have those conversations with the chairman, I guess. I
guess if you're the one doing all the legwork, I think you should stay in your office. I think you've got specific need, much like Veteran Services has specific need for their vehicle. I'd still want to see the logs and everything like Veteran Services does.
Certainly, yeah.
But I feel that we need the county clerk to be a gatekeeper of vehicles.
And I think just the logs too is a good way to protect your employees if someone, you know where they're at, you know where the vehicle's been, so if someone does make that accusation, you at least have paperwork saying, well, we weren't there, we were, what's the used that day. So,
Right.
It's, whoever keeps track of it. I mean, it's still just like the veteran service. If one's busy, the other one is available, just use whatever. Sounds good. I have no qualms over that. We do dump a lot on the clerk's office.
That's my
But she's doing better.
I got broad shoulders.
Yeah, she's doing good.
broader shoulders than I do.
Any other discussion regarding this? Roll call, please.
Sights,
Yes.
Obermeyer,
Yes.
Groves,
No,
Bowman.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. You will contact them?
Yeah.
And then we'll,
Take care of the paperwork this week. So
Yeah,
I'll- yeah.
okay, all right,
Keep you in the loop.
thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, discuss an act on, not discuss an act, discuss county insurance. We're down to the end of the go here. The insurance committee, we expanded a little bit this year to get more of the handbook committee in on it. It kind of has got representation of different departments from across the county, more than just the 4 members that was on it. We're finding out that this year we're not as lucrative to other insurance companies. We had a bad year of claims. As we learned, we're on a rolling calendar, so when the next month comes on, then a month drops off, so it isn't just J1 to December 30th. It's how we have this rolling calendar. And apparently last year, September, if I remember right, August, September of last year was 2 really bad months for us as far as for claims. And so we were over that previous 12 months, the amount of money we paid in, the insurance company is 110% of payout. So they wanted 19.9%, basically 20% increase. I think the first one was a 24% increase we've seen, and then they're locked down at 19.9%. The insurance committee will meet again this Friday to discuss some of the stuff we just got in yesterday. What we got in yesterday was 2 companies are not interested in us. Allstate and United Healthcare are not interested in us. Blue Cross Blue Shield did turn in a bid, but they are higher than what Medica's bid was. Medica did come back and offer what is more of a narrow network, either completely excluding CHIs or only CHIs. So what the committee talked briefly about this last week was changing kind of the way we do, and this would be the sheet we have here. We have what I'd call as defined benefit. Currently, we charge $50 for a single employee if they want to be on there. Then if there's an employee spouse, $550, employee children, $500, and family, $900. And that comes off of whatever the premium is to the county. So we would talk about offering more programs. So Medica was the one, and right now it kind of looks like they are. We would have what I'd call the traditional 2 plans we had, and then their narrow network obviously involved in there too, which would have 2 plans for each one, and that I had sent on. So it'd be the traditional plan on the narrow network, traditional plan on, or HSA narrow network, and then CHI and CHI. So essentially the employee would have like 6 plans to choose from. What Todd from OCI is recommending that we instead change and define what the county's contribution is. It's kind of the same thing, but we would define the contribution. So we would say, for instance, and these are just numbers, the committee hasn't talked about them, but employee only, the county would pay $900. And that single employee would know that, okay, I've got $900, which one of these plans do I want? If I want the real expensive one, then I make up the rest of it. If this one down here, this HSA, is $750, then that $150 gets deposited back to them for going with the cheapest plan they could choose. And so forth on down, the employee spouse, employee children, and then family, that we could come up with some numbers for those, and that's what the committee will talk about this Friday, is hone in on a little bit like that. And then it really puts the employee empowers the employee to choose, you know, which one do I want? You know, the narrow networks look like they might be a good choice. There's huge savings. York Hospital is in there, Seward Hospital, all the local hospitals. When you get to the bigger towns, there's typically CHI and they call them regional centers or whatever. So there's going to be choices, or maybe they want to go with everything being covered, but then that's going to be the most expensive plan, and they just have to make up that difference. If we say on the family, we say, okay, we're going to spend $2,000 per family, and they have that, well, they could maybe have a plan that costs $2,400, so it would only cost them $400 a month, or they want the plan that's $3,200, it costs them $1,200 a month. So it to me, it kind of gives them the power a little bit if we have those extra choices in there. I assume that everybody's budgets are going to play a part in that. So I don't know. That's kind of, in our census right now shows us that we have 86 total and 23 eligible. So the 86 is what's total on there right now. 23 eligible choose to get their insurance. Maybe they're on the spouse's insurance or whatever they choose to go a different direction. So those numbers could change depending on what we offer. And currently I did throw some numbers at where we were at in our census. And if we was to do 1,000 per, excuse me, 1,000 per employee, using these numbers once again, 1,500 per employee, and either they chose a child or spouse, and then 2,000 for family, and then use these numbers on a monthly basis. That was 95,500, and that basically comes up to what we pay or what we budgeted this year, which was 1.15 is what we budgeted in that new 614 health insurance fund. So once again, those are just numbers that I put in just to see where the budget was at. It would be up to this board to decide where we want to go, how we want to do it. This is one of the funner times of year. Wages and insurance, the two real fun times of year. Questions? Ben offered to be here today with Cornerstone, but I didn't think there was really going to be much that we were going to, because we really didn't have those numbers to go through yet or anything. You know, they just came in last night.
Have we went back to Medica at all and said, hey,
that's it,
to stay with you?
That's it.
Oh, okay.
I think the 5.1% they went down was it. Todd was very sure last week that was it. And then when you see the other ones come in at either more or say, no, we don't want anything to do with them, that just reinforces their hand. We just had a bad year. Now, will we follow that up with another bad year? It's possible. It'd be nice if it was just one bad year and we got everybody into our new weight room down there and everybody gets healthy and we don't have no problems, but that's probably not reality either. Questions, comments?
I think the direction that the insurance committee's moving is a good one.
We'll know more after this week. I seen the invitation came out that we ask everybody to show back up this Friday at 9:30, and we'll go through that and go through some more numbers, and then they'll have recommendation. But this gives stuff to think about, and we'll need to make a decision at the next meeting because the way we do our payroll deduct, we need to start deducting in December prior
So
to
it's not a,
first. So, we are asking very nicely the clerk's office to maybe change that this next year. So we do it more of a month, the month of, and then we will have a little bit more room. After Obamacare come in, it forced everybody to renew these last few months of the year. So these insurance companies are just inundated with everybody renewing. And it just is really busy. And the way we do our payroll deduct is, you know, forces our hand to make our decision in November.
Right.
You know, so.
And I don't know how the payroll accounting works. Should we have to, I mean, hopefully we make a decision next meeting, but let's say, you know, for whatever reason, is there a, I suppose it's just back end accounting and it's messy as far as, you know, if we had to push enrollment till later and we got into January before people were changing their deductions, I mean, it would be messy, I'm sure.
A little bit.
is it even possible?
It would be possible. We would probably have to, as a county, make up the premium.
Right.
Yeah.
And then get it all straightened out over the next month or so.
Right.
Currently, if we do decide the 26th, you know, that's the week of Thanksgiving. So we would roll out right away to open enrollment to our employees, and then get it done the first week of December. That way, that first pay period, which I think is the 10th.
Meetings on the 10th.
Yeah.
Would Ben's team be available? Because adding different options always gets really, really messy too in and of itself. But
Yes.
for informational
Yes.
meetings and multiples.
We even talked about garnering, say, because we have a system called Ease that people can get on, and it would all be loaded on Ease. And we talked about bringing multiple computers downstairs and then inviting people to come in and having them and, you know, possibly Todd around to work with our employees, and that way we got everything done. And then I know in the past they've done, like, they go out and just do the roads department, you know, get those 30-some employees just out of the way, and then we ask these to come down, you know, our in-house employees, because they can't just shut an office down, so, you know, be here for a few hours. So yes, that would be available. Question? Sound good so far?
Yeah. I keep looking at our insurance costs against other counties, and particularly with the sheriff's department in mind, trying to hire people away from them counties to fill our positions. We got a hill to climb there.
Well, and that's where, you know, I think that Todd came up with a good idea that we, you know, offer a few more choices.
Right.
And then, you know, you can decide what your family's budget is. And it'll be a little bit harder to get it, you know, all set up to begin with, but once it's in the computer, then we're good to go. And like I say, if you have an opportunity to get family insurance for $400, you know, that's super, but you know you're on an HSA that, you know, it's all you know, it's gonna be a little bit of a risk there too, but at least, you know, it's compared to the 900 that we're asking now.
No, I do like the direction. Don't get me wrong. I love the direction we're taking. I think it's way more proactive than just picking a couple plants and saying, here you guys go.
Okay, well, like I say, it wasn't discuss an act, it was just a matter to get it out in front of everybody, and we will have it on the agenda for the 26th. Anything else? No? Okay. Was there anything else in the committee reports? I do know that upstairs, I got a picture sent to me just a few minutes ago that they are working on the windows upstairs, so that is finally getting going. Allison seemed to be happy about that. Mary, did you have anything today?
I don't.
Okay. Well, like I say, that Nate gave us the information that next Monday night is the meeting, and then, you know, we'll get together this Friday. Anything else, guys? I don't think I missed anything. Okay, we are adjourned. Yes, the windows are being